appealing to more people, not fewer. I won't expound further since I haven't seen the changes to the public realm. I look forward to the redevelopment agency meeting tomorrow where a public citizen can see what the public realm has become. Thank you.
Brian Griffin.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to provide input this evening. I'm Brian Griffin. I'm the Vice President of the Greater Norwalk Chamber of Commerce and would like to speak to a few items in regards to the Sono collection, and I will be well under 3 minutes, I hope. On behalf of our Board of Directors and the many hundreds of businesses and organizations in the Greater Norwalk Chamber of Commerce, I wish to state again our support of the Sono collection, but also for the $3.5 million funding. We feel that that's going to be very helpful to the city in funding some programs of need for businesses and residents in and around the project. So we're hoping that will go forward. Moreover, we're very pleased that the Sono area will now be served with a hotel, as the Marriott residence on South Main Street is now under construction, so we're very pleased to see that as well. Regarding the clarification of language concerning anchors of high quality, it is important to note that businesses, and retail in particular, should be able to adapt to market conditions. The anchor department stores remain committed to this project, but should something happen during the 15 years this condition exists, it is in the best interest for all concerned to find the best possible replacement and retain a Class A mall and anchors of high quality. Last, there are many stats and figures that demonstrate the numerous and varied positive outcomes of this project, and you folks are well aware of that, more than anyone else probably. So I'm not going to go through that list, but just to simply state that the window of opportunity is not going to be forever open. So we're encouraging you to act in moving this forward and providing for this significant investment in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
Mike Giacobacci.
Hi, good evening. On behalf of Stepping Stones Museum for Children, we would like to voice our strong continued support for the Sono Collection project. GGP continues to serve as an investment partner with Stepping Stones to ensure that this project is not only a premier retail destination, but is also truly integrated into the social fabric of the community at multiple levels. In addition to its continued social investment, GGP has already significant financial investment coupled with new job training and construction hiring coming online will also contribute to the overall health of the local economy. This impact expected to ripple outward to area businesses and cities' major destinations like Stepping Stones. Therefore, we urge the Common Council to vote in favor for the measure regarding Sono collection tonight, and we look forward to a continued strong partnership with GGP in the coming months and years to build a positive future for Norwalk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Georgianne Rucker Scott.
Good evening. Again, my name is Georgianna Rucker Scott, and my journey, I just wrote a few notes so I won't go over my time. My journey started with GGP at 50 Washington Street, and I've been on this journey with them from the beginning, and GGP has made, in my opinion, every effort to bring an outstanding mall to Norwalk, which includes jobs and training. And along with that, I'm very pleased the fact that they would like to contribute at least $3.5 million to the city of Norwalk. And one of my great concerns, if the council would consider part of that funding to be used towards refurbishing and renovating housing in South Main Street in and around the train station, so that as continued development comes into that area, we won't look like an eyesore or blighted for other outstanding businesses. So I think part of that funding would be very, very well served to help the housing that's already in the area to come up to a better standard with improvements for the property so that continued businesses can come in. I think GGP has made every effort to work with the city, and I'm very serious about that. And I know they've had changes to the mall, but I think for my part, I can see when you have people who are willing to work with the community, and I think that's very, very noble. So I would really hope that this program, the mall, would go forward. I've been on a long journey with them and attended so many meetings speaking in behalf of them. And I think their heart, their mind, and their wallets are in the right direction for Norwalk. So please consider the $3.5 million, part of that go into South Norwalk for refurbishing the housing there. We already have affordable housing there in South Main and in and around the train station that needs to stay there and not become an eyesore or blighted. So that's my concern, and I hope that the council would consider my concerns and hopefully let this go forward. I don't think we can lose with GGP. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rucker-Scott.
Larry Cafaro.
Good evening, members of the council, Mr. Mayor. My name is Larry Cafaro. I'm a resident of the city of Norwalk. I'm also attorney for General Growth Properties, one of the attorneys for General Growth Properties. Many of you who serve on the planning committee heard me speak before. I asked to indulge a bit, so I addressed and review my comments, and I will try to be as possible. I want to just emphasize why we're here today. This is certainly not a new subject. The subject has been debated, discussed, and put on for years by this council, assessment council, development agencies, committee, planning committee, design review committee, you name it, and I think everyone has had an interest in this. The project passed, LDA was signed. It's our hope that this meeting would never have to take place. We're here for two distinct reasons. One is that the third use that was required by the hotel, we believe, and I believe the city believes, is economically infeasible. The substitute uses that were identified as major mixed-use uses, if you will, so we're here to ask the city to modify the LDA by allowing two uses, public realm and retail, as opposed to three. In lieu of that third use, we are offering the city $3.5 million. It happens to be, though not directly related to real estate taxes, but equivalent to approximately 20 years worth of taxes that would have been realized by the city if the hotel were to have gone through. As you've heard by other speakers here, there is a hotel that is being built in South Norwalk. And not only that, when this first mixed-use idea with regard to this property came up, so much has changed in the city of Norwalk that the very district, in fact, the very mile within which this property is situated, is as mixed use as you could get. It includes office space, hotels, entertainment, the Maritime Aquarium, Stepping Stones Museum, movie theaters, restaurants, government buildings. And this will be, in our opinion, the anchor that brings it all together. So we as a city could rest assured that this district and this project continues in the tradition of mixed use. By the way, some points I think that need to be clarified. There, with the proposed elimination of the hotel, GGP is not proposing to increase any square footage in retail whatsoever. Also, the public realm space, which remains, though required at 5%, remains at 8%. I know a previous speaker alluded to some changes in public realm. There are no changes to the public realm that's been approved by the various boards and commissions. That this modification proposal does not include that. The second request that we have is to have some flexibility and clarification with regard to the definition of anchors of high quality. It is a 15-year commitment that GGP takes very seriously and must live up to. And in the unlikely event that the two anchors, Bloomingdale's and Nordstrom's, who have signed up for 20 years with several 10-year options thereafter, in the unlikely event something should happen, GGP needs the flexibility at that time, based on market conditions, to put in an anchor of high quality so we could live by the promises we made to the city. And please be aware that the city never gives up their right at any time to challenge whatever anchor of high quality GGP hopes to put in the place of any anchor that happens to leave. One of the things I think that we have to remind ourselves, especially in this environment, when we pick up the paper and read about the goings-on and the crisis in Hartford with regard to the budget, and in particular, the monies that may or may not be taken away from various cities, including the city of Norwalk. This is a project that has already to date paid over $2 million to the city of Norwalk by way of the easement fee, the circulator fee, foundation permit, wastewater treatment plant payments, etc. By the end of this fiscal year, if this council and two other boards approve this modification, by the end of this fiscal year, this city will realize an additional $7.5 million that will come by way of the remaining building permits and, of course, the $3.5 million payment.
You're at 5 minutes.
I'm sorry. This is a transformational moment for the city. It is our hope and our wish that you approve this modification. We believe that it will be in the best interest of the city of Norwalk. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Mr. Capero.
Doug Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Common Council. I promise that between Larry and myself will be under 6 minutes. So I wanted to personally thank.
You've got 18 seconds left.
I wanted to personally thank the council members, the mayor, and others in the agency who's still working on this, who put in a lot of time on an aggressive schedule for a quick, but I think a full consideration of our request. And so I appreciate that effort and compressing it when there's a lot of other important business for the city. You know, we are, as Larry said, very disappointed that we're unable to move forward with the hotel and the other uses. We spent considerable time designing a hotel, hiring a contractor, costing the hotel, working with, in the end, 12 different groups of all different sizes and different types of hotels to try to bring a hotel to this project. But in the end, we're unsuccessful. And to move the project forward and get built, the retail, we had to make this decision to make this request. So we appreciate the serious consideration you're giving to it. The project's important to us for obvious reasons, but we feel to the city as well for what Larry brought to light. But one of the biggest things are the jobs, right? It is over 2,100 permanent jobs that will come to the city based here. And, you know, in my 4 years working with the community, that has always been one of the most important aspects to this project. So that's something I care about and would like to deliver to this city. To that end, we've started the construction outreach for the hiring already, and as well, the job training for career program will start this fall. Again, I appreciate the consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Okay, there's no other speakers signed up. Is there anybody else that wish to address the council? If you come down and state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Paxton Knoll. I live at 30 Orchard Street in Norwalk, and and most of you know me as the developer of Waypoint. I saw Doug earlier today, and we were talking and asked me to come down. I want to impress upon you how important it is, in my opinion, for Norwalk to approve these changes, approve them quickly, and not lose this economic cycle. Our whole world is changing, our retail world is changing. There's an opportunity now to get the only Class A mall under construction in the entire United States, under construction here in Norwalk, and I think that we need to take that opportunity and do it immediately. I've sent a letter in that voiced some concerns about a movie theater because we have been asked to invest in a movie theater in Norwalk. We filed plans towards that, and we're going to invest, I think it's $7-point-something million in that theater. So we're getting ready to go. The adjustments on that language for the redevelopment agency, which is tomorrow night, has been made. So we are happy with that. We hope that the $3.5 million is used for some better connectivity between Wall Street and South Norwalk, specifically on the Mall Loop Road, and relocating some of those graves in that cemetery so the road can be two-way. But we really support this mall. We've supported it from day one, and we think that with Waypoint on the north side of I-95 and the mall on the south side, that we're able to really fully connect the Wall Street area of Norwalk and South Norwalk into one city. And we hope that, that you all approve this quickly so it can happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cannell. Anyone else? Seeing none, we will close the public participation session. Next item on the agenda, there are no resignations or appointments. Under Mayor's remarks, today we were in Hartford at the state capitol for the 3rd annual Norwalk Day hosted by Senator Duff. It was really a great opportunity to showcase our city up in the area of Hartford where maybe a lot of people haven't been here in a while. And one of our promotions was come on down and see how Norwalk has grown and changed. I think we'd be pleased with what you see. So it was a great day, and we had the Maritime Aquarium there, Norwalk Community College, Cobb Island oysters. We had plenty of oysters and clams for the visitors. Pepperidge Farm cookies, our Historical Society, and Norwalk Acts. It was, again, a great day. It allowed us to showcase our city and show off a lot of the attractions that we have. Tomorrow, Wednesday, May 24th, the Health Department and its commissioners will honor Dr. Edward Tracy at 5 p.m. at the Health Department. Dr. Tracy has served Norwalk as a member of the Norwalk Board of Health for 39 years. He will be missed, so if you're in the area, stop by and thank him for his service to our community. Don't forget, Sunday, May 28th is the Rowayton Memorial Day Parade. Marchers step off from the Rowayton Community Center at 12 noon. And then the following day, the 29th, the Norwalk Memorial Day Parade. Marchers step off from Vets Park at 10 a.m. Public should be aware of the road closures along the route, including the closing of exit 16 to and from I-95. You know, it's always a great day to go out and take a look at the parade and have a lot of fun, and Memorial Day offers opportunities for families to have picnics and a lot of family time. Let's not forget, though, that the purpose of Memorial Day is to honor the military men and women who have given their lives in service to our country. So it's a great opportunity to bring the kiddies out, see the parade, but explain to them why we are a free nation and what those freedoms cost. So it's a great opportunity. So if you see a vet, thank a vet on that day. On Wednesday, May 31st, we will celebrate with the retiring Chief Larry Riley of the Fire Department at 12:30 at the Central Firehouse. He has served the city faithfully for 42 years, and he will be missed as well. I'm wishing everybody a safe and peaceful Memorial Day weekend. Thank you. Mr. Igneri.
Thank you.
I don't think we voted for minutes to approve the
Yeah, we
minutes.
did.
We did?
Yes.
Yeah.
12 to 2.
2 abstentions.
I abstained.
I was worried about the microphones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In an effort to keep this evening moving along, I'm going to not have any comments and turn the consent calendar over to Mike DePalma. We'll read it tonight, and Mr. Hempstead's in the box for next council meeting. For those of you that are sitting out there waiting for something to be voted on, anything on the consent calendar is a yes vote. So if you hear your item read, it means it was approved. If you would like to leave after that, you feel free. With that, Mike?
Okay, so the following items will be on consent. Item 6A1, authorization to settle claim Erling Goico versus City of Norwalk. Item 6A2, this is consent to remove from the agenda. This is the discussion of negotiations pertaining to proposed option to purchase agreement by and between the City of Norwalk, the Norwalk Public Library Board, and 587 Connecticut Avenue LLC. Item 7A1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into agreement with Stepping Stones Museum for Children, Inc. for the use of Matthews Park for the Worldwide Day of Play to take place Saturday, September 16th, 2017, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Estimating attendance is 1,900. Item 7A2, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into agreement with the Carver Foundation for use of Norwalk for use of Columbus School grounds for their summer camp to be held June 26, 2017 through August 5th, 2017, Monday through Friday each week from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Estimated attendance is 200. Item 7A, 4A, authorize the purchasing department to issue a purchase order to Emmy O'Brien's and Sons, Inc., sole source for playground equipment at Marvin School for a sum not to exceed $72,105, account number noted. Item 7A, 4B, authorize the Director of Recreations and Parks to issue a change order in the sum not to exceed $5,000, account number noted. Item 7A, 5, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into an agreement with Kids for the use of Norwalk High School track for a Kids for Kids walkathon to be held Saturday, June 10th, 2017 from 10 a.m. to 12 o'clock noon. Set up to take place Saturday, June 10th, 2017 at 9 a.m. with tear down no later than 2 p.m. on Saturday, June 10th, 2017. Estimated attendance is 300. Item 7A6, approve the Washington Street Plaza proposed improvement, preliminary site plan review. Item 7A8, approve the master plan of Irvin Freeze Park as presented and to proceed to final design and construction documents to be funded by the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency. Item 7B1, just a technical correction of Common Council action of May 9th, 2017, item 7B11, to correct the name of the company from PDF to PDS. The new action to read as follows: authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with PDS Engineering and Construction, Inc. for the Rowayton Elementary School Cafeteria Improvement Project for a total not to exceed $150,000, account number noted. Item 7C1, accept and approve the report of the Claims Committee dated May 11th, 2017. Item 7C2, for informational purposes only, narrative on tax collections dated May 11th, 2017. Item 7C3, for informational purposes only, monthly tax collectors report dated April 30th, 2017. Item 7C4, approve fiscal year 2017-18 parking authority budget as revised. Item 7C5, approve fiscal year 2017-2018 water pollution authority budget. Item 7C6, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Tyler Technologies to assist the assessor with real property valuation for a sum not to exceed $680,000. The account number is noted. Item 7C8A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to sign a letter of agreement regarding the agreement of Prime AE Group, Inc., the Capital Region Council of Governments, and the City of Norwalk as one of the members of the IT Services Cooperative for an electronic document management system commencing June 29, 2017, and ending June 30th, 2022, with an additional 3-year options to renew. Then item 7C8B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue purchase orders to the Capital Regional Government Council of Governments for base software licenses, implementation, and hosting services for Phase 1 electronic document management systems at a cost not to exceed $19,250, and additional customized interfaces and workflows not to exceed $60,000 for a total of $79,250. Account number is noted. Budgeted IT capital project, no special appropriation required. And item 7C9, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with CDR Solutions for email archiving system for an amount not to exceed $34,250, account number noted. Budgeted IT capital project, no special appropriation required. That is the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. DePalma. Does everyone agree with that, or any changes? The consent calendar is read. If not, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor? That looks like unanimous. Consent calendars have been approved unanimously. With that, Mr. Mayor, I turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Igneri. Mr. Sims. Item 7A3.
783, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter an agreement with Stu Leonard's for the use of Andrews Park in the area to service their employees during the busy store dates. Months and days of 2017 is July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, November 21st and 22nd, December 2nd, 3rd, 9th, 10th, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And 2018 is March 30th, 31st, May 12th, and May 13th, and May 26th, 27th, and 28th.
Mr. Sims moves it. Mr. Hempstead.
Yes, I work for Stu Leonard, so I need to recuse myself from any participation in this item.
Please let the record reflect that Mr. Hempstead has left the room. Mr. Sims moved the item. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries 13-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Leaving no cookies?
Mr. Sims, item 7A7.
Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to sign the negative pledge agreement and declaration of restrictive use covenant of the remediation of Ryan Park. I move for its adoption.
Mr. Sims moves. Discussion? Mr. Bonifant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, I wanted to ask you something, Mr. Sheehan, if it's all right. Just to clarify, I know you gave me a good answer in committee. I just want to make sure everybody understood. That,
I'll try and remember what I told you in committee.
It better be the truth.
Thanks. But your negative pledge says that you won't do anything with the park for 10 years in order to get the grant.
That's correct.
But the original covenant with the city, the redevelopment, and the second taxing district says it's in permanent recreational space, right?
That is correct.
So that would take precedence over a 10-year pledge on your part to go to the state of Connecticut and ask them for a grant.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay,
So the park would never come out, it would never change for any use beyond the park.
Okay, thanks. That part, just one other thing, as I'm reading this, the original, and I'd share it with anybody else if
The original being the tax,
Yes,
the
the
taxing
original,
district?
where it said that the redevelopment agency acquired the property for the park when I guess they switched one park for another park, and now the old one is Claffs up there?
Yes.
Okay, so do you own that? Does the redevelopment agency own the park, or you just acquired the land and then gave it to the city?
No, the city of Norwalk actually owns the underlying land, the asset.
Okay. It just said the redevelopment agency acquired.
When we acquire, we acquired a lot of property in South Norwalk, and when we did the acquisition, it was always in the name of the city of Norwalk.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Further discussion? Ms. Bowman?
That being said, is it in writing anywhere that the other covenant takes precedence?
That is in perpetuity. This is a 10-year restriction from the state. So there's an agreement that it would be maintained for park purposes with the taxing district, the city of Norwalk, and the redevelopment agency. That's in perpetuity, that will go well beyond the 10 years.
Okay.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Kimmel.
Item, okay.
Item 7C7?
Yeah, item 7 under Finance Committee. Let me read it and then briefly speak to it. Resolution making appropriations for various public improvements aggregating $120,718,000 for the 17-18 capital budget and authorizing the issuance of $120,080,000 in general obligation bonds of the city to meet certain appropriations in the 17-18 capital budget. I'd move the item. This is essentially, we do this every year at this time after we pass a capital budget. It enables us to move forward to try to finance our capital budget with the lowest possible interest rates that we can get, which generally have been pretty good. There is always a difference in the two numbers since each year we have some money that comes to us via grants. Some money we already have, so there is a slight difference. But this is an item that resolution that we need to pass every single year to enable our finance department to make sure we get the best deal we can when we look for bonds so we can finance the future of the city. Thank you.
Mr. Kimmel moves the item. Ms. Bowman?
I'm not gonna talk very long. I'm just gonna be abstaining today just because, the Nathaniel Early School is also a part of this package again, as it was before.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? 2 abstentions, Ms. Bowman and Mr. Sims. Mr. Kides, I believe, correct?
That one quickly.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Hempstead.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, as I stated at the last council meeting, I will be excusing myself from any participation in this particular item. And I wish everybody a nice Memorial Day since it's the last item on our agenda.
Please let the record reflect that Mr. Hempstead has left the building.
What about order?
Literally. No, it's all off. Mr. Kides.
Yeah, I believe these need to be moved separately, so I'd like to move that item D1 and then speak to it briefly. Item D1, approve modifications to the urban renewal plan for the Reed-Putnam area in Amendment 5 to the land disposition and development agreement of the Reed-Putnam area development parcels 1, 2, and 4 among the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency, the City of Norwalk, Connecticut Land Development, LLC. I know everyone, including myself, is a little disappointed that the developer's request to remove the third use of this project, but also don't want everyone to lose sight that fundamentally this has always been a Class A development and mall development, and it still is. Over the 3.5 years since this project has been presented to us, I've learned a lot about not just this development, but the history of this site. And I found one fact relative to what we're voting on tonight, and that being that back in 2001, when the council members who sat at these seats approved a development that was 100% commercial office space. So, and I think looking back now, I feel we have a far better development in front of us tonight. Not only do we have retail, but we have 51,000 square feet of public realm, which includes 5,000 square feet of institutional use. You know, unfortunately, it took 20 years to get to this point, but I do believe we have a far better project in front of us now than what the council approved back in 2001. You know, we got a development now that won't go lights out at 5 p.m. and will dramatically improve and revitalize and connect our urban core. And I do believe this project is a game changer for Norwalk. And so that being said, I think we have a fair and well-crafted document in front of us, and I urge that the council support its passage and not to delay this project or vote it down, because undoubtedly that will leave us with nothing but another story of what could have developed in Norwalk. That being said, also, it's been brought to our attention, there is a memorandum in front of us with some technical and clerical changes. Our city attorney represents us on the, Mr. Bernheim has let us know that, Eric, if you don't mind coming up and speaking onto it, but he informed us that, like I said, these are technical and clerical changes that have no effect on the substance of the material of the agreements But maybe you can,
Sure. For the record, Eric Bernheim. Just as you said, Mr. Kites, these are really just technical and clerical changes, really typos that were missed before the documents were circulated to all of you. So nothing in these changes or anything that you haven't seen before. They are important changes, though, because some of them were misses as to references to the hotel and the URP. There was a reference to the mixed use still being 3 uses instead of 2, the public realm and retail. And then also just calling out on the CMSP in front of you which slides in that entire packet are actually being changed. Again, the only thing changing on those slides on the CMSP and the connectivity plan is the reference to the hotel and removing that from all of the images on those plans. So these changes should be adopted into the LDA.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying there's no substantive changes. These are just simply Scrivener's errors and typos.
That's correct.
Further discussion?
Procedural.
Mr. Kimmel.
Do we have to, this, I'm not quite sure how we deal with this. Do we need a separate vote on adding them, or is they're just typos?
Attorney Capola could chime in as well. I don't think a separate vote's necessary. I think they're just clerical errors. I think you're discussing this memo in front of you, and the action item says that you're approving what's in front of you. So I don't believe that a separate action item is required.
Yeah, I agree. There's no separate action item required. These are changes that are made within the document, and again, are just, you know, clarifications, corrections of typos, clerical errors, etc. So the answer is no.
Thank you.
Mr. De Palma.
Yeah, I just had, you know, I'm not on the planning committee, but obviously I've had a lot of discussions with different people on the committee. I've had discussions with constituents. So to me, the two main sticking points obviously are the ones that are clear here. So I wanted to see if, you know, Attorney Burnham could just confirm them. I mean, to me, I'm not really that frustrated that the hotel isn't going forward. I mean, I would have liked it to be there. The frustration is more in that we had this LDA in place, and it was, you know, we have to now make this adjustment. So I wanted to be I want there to be confirmation that at least a good faith effort was made, and it sounds like it was, but I mean, you've been in the negotiations. Do you feel that there was a good effort made to try to find a tenant for that hotel space?
Yes, I mean, we've heard the same thing that you heard tonight from Attorney Capero, that they've spoken to at least 12 hotel operators and none of them can make it work. But I can also tell you that the Nordstrom's lease required that a hotel be there until it was amended just recently. So to the extent that that gives you any assurances that GGP truly wanted a hotel there, until they had that amendment in place and negotiated that with Nordstrom's, their lease required a hotel there. So I'm sure they were trying extremely hard to find an operator.
And then the second piece is obviously the $3.5 million. Do you feel that that's a fair trade-off for the city?
I do, in reading the emails that we received from the finance director, who indicated that it's approximately 18 to 19 years of tax revenue up front as soon as the final land use approvals are obtained. And the tax assessor also said that he felt that it was a fair net present value analysis. And the tax assessor also pointed out that a hotel that goes dark or is not operating to the quality of the mall beneath it would actually have an adverse impact not only on the hotel and the tax revenue generated from it, but also on the tax revenue generated from the hotel, because it's now got a underperforming hotel on top of it.
Further discussion?
Question for Barbara.
Mr. Kimmel.
Earlier this evening, we heard discussions regarding public realm and billboard and language. My understanding would be that anything related to signage would be a zoning issue, and zoning would have to take that up. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And our zoning regulations will be what is in play when we consider that?
Yes, there's a zoning manual that was approved by the zoning commission, I believe, in December of last year. So their signage needs to comply with that zoning, that signage manual.
Okay, fine. Secondly, the question of the public realm, which we all deemed very important, was raised earlier. We had heard from GGP that there are no changes in the public realm. Is that your view also?
I haven't seen any changes to any proposed public realm plans, and I believe they need to come back before the redevelopment agency if they were going to change that.
And lastly, there's been a fair amount of talk about language and how it will impact the future, but the main point, as far as I can see regarding that, is irrespective, the council will have some say, if not final say, in those decisions about what eventually, if ever necessary, to replace either Bloomingdale's or Nordstrom's, whatever replace it would also have to be approved by the Common Council.
The council will be able to enforce its rights under the LDA, as will the agency. One of the conditions of the prior zoning commission approval was compliance with all of the terms of the urban renewal plan and the land disposition agreement, the LDA. I am sure that I'm going to be recommending that that condition stay in the next zoning commission approval that they're seeking in June, should they approve the pending plan. So yes, the council will always retain their rights to dispute the whether or not a replacement anchor for the Nordstrom's or Bloomingdale sites is classified an anchor of high quality under the LDA.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Mr. Sims.
Yes. I just want to say that I've been in favor of this mall project from the very beginning. I remember back in 2007 or 8 when they first came before the council with their proposal. Having said that, I'm just blown away that the mall they want to move forward without the hotel piece. One of the recommendations back then was to put the hotel in lieu of the housing component, which I thought would be pretty cumbersome on the mall itself going forward. And also it was the same with office space. We didn't think that would probably be a good fit. And it was a recommendation to put the hotel in lieu of that, and that's what GGP agreed to. And to now come back after they receive all the approvals to say they want to take them all out because it's just not feasible. I just don't buy it, and I think that we should hold them to the LDA. We should not be amending the LDA to take out, not only just take out the mall, but to take out the housing component. I think that they should be providing either housing as part of the mall, or they should add the office space. And if they're not going to even put the hotel, hey, put a Boys and Girls Club, put something there. You know, but let's not just start opening up cans of worms to change this LDA for $3.5 million, which they said was comparable to 20 years of tax revenue from the hotel piece being there, which is roughly comes out to $175,000. Okay, I look back, and I lived in South Newark my whole entire life, and I look at all the taxpayers and homeowners who work their tails off to own property there, and for the state and the city to use eminent domain to take that property from those people, as well as all the businesses that was there with Connecticut Limousine, Maritime Motors, Chevrolet, the gas stations, Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, you're talking over 20-something years of tax revenue that has been taken away from the city and taken away from taxpayers. I don't think that we should let anyone off the hook that easily. I think we should hold them accountable, hold them to the LDA, and have them produce housing or office space or something of that magnitude. But let's not just say, just build a Class A mall, because that piece of land is in South Norwalk, and that's you know, the folks from South Norwalk deserve to have something that comes back to them. That $3.5 million is not coming back to the people of South Norwalk, and it's unfortunate. You know, I'd like to see something. If that $3.5 million or whatever that needs to come back to Norwalk, it should go to help putting social services programs to the most vulnerable in this city. It should put a Boys and Girls Club. That money should be used to help with home improvements or taxes or what have you, to help those folks that are in the South Norwalk corridor. Okay? Because At the end of the day, this is the people's land. This is the people's district in this area. Yeah, this mall will belong to the entire city, but this mall is being directly impacted by the residents who are going to live there and work there. So I just encourage all my colleagues here to, and I hear good things, all good things about this mall. Now, like I said, I've been in support of this mall from day one, but I'm not in favor of changing the LDA and allow anyone to get off land, because again, you look at all the other developers in this land that we held to that same standard and have them provide affordable housing to these projects. Why are we making exceptions? And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Mr. Livingston.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say I will be supporting this proposal, and I just wanted to comment a little bit on the Section 9 of the mall classification. There's been a lot of discussion about that. And I know the lawyers have spent a lot of time negotiating some changes to that, which now include references to both Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's, and I appreciate the efforts to do that. But I also think it's important that we can't lose sight of the fact that should such an event occur that Bloomingdale's or Nordstrom go out of business, it's in all of our interests to get the best tenant possible. I mean, I think our interests are really aligned here. I mean, it doesn't serve anybody, GGP or us, to not get a good tenant there. And I also think it's, as both counsel, Mr. Cotero and Mr. Brenheim have said, if we disagree with the analysis by GGP, we have a right to challenge, and I think that's very important to note. And finally, I'll note what may be obvious, that if we don't approve this proposal or we delay it somehow, we're going to lose the very anchor tenants we're trying so hard to keep, because we understand from the leases that they have to be in place by October of 2019. So, you know, it would be ironical if we delayed this because of this provision and lost the very tenants we're trying to keep. So, I want to say that.
Mr. Bonifant.
Oh, thank you. And along with the last two speakers, Mr. Sims and Mr. Livingston, you know what? Good points, and I want to throw Mr. Kites a compliment for all the hard work you put into this, and including the lawyers from both sides, the city and there. But you can tell the common theme is the frustration of the broken promises over the years. No matter what, you know, people have come back to us many times, okay? On this latest round, well, I voted no, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, a month ago, whatever it was the last time we had it here, and I thought we had some public hearings. I think there's a couple of public hearings to go at redevelopment, but I thought that we could have took the opportunity to have the door swing both ways instead of. I get it that there's a $3.5 million payment to buy themselves out of the hotel, but I thought we could have took advantage of the opportunity to open the door and perhaps throw out that the enterprise zone altogether, which was really put in place for the last developer, and that person just took it and flipped it for the value that it had to the next developer. So I'm going to continue to not vote yes on this one, because I think we could have took advantage of the opportunity to get a better deal for us. Thank you.
Mr. Igneri.
Mr. Mayor, I am going to support the mall tonight. I've supported the mall from the very beginning. I think it's an economic engine that the city needs badly. And as to quote Mr. Kites, it's a game changer for the city. I think we're all looking at the $3.5 million with the hotel dropping off, and we're losing sight that this project has to get going soon, so we have those tenants, number one. Number two, it's going to create close to 2,200 jobs in this city. That's about 4.9% of all the current jobs in the city. In retail trade, which many of these jobs will be in, is the largest employer in the state of Connecticut. We can't ignore that, and I think we need to move forward, and we need to move forward quickly on this. Thank you.
Ms. Bowman.
I abstained from this in committee, mainly because, for several reasons, but mainly because there was a line item that said that the $3.5 million would go to surrounding neighborhoods. That was taken out. I was told that was taken out because we didn't want the developers telling us what to do. However, the LDA is our document, so I don't understand how that would be the developers telling us what to do. If that's not in there, I can't support the change. This is without the change, the mall is still approved to be built. So this is just a change to what exactly is going to be built. So that's not. So I do still support the mall even without my vote. The $3.5 million should go to South Norwalk because the mall will be located in South Norwalk. And even if and I don't understand the logic of taking it out. Technically speaking, I don't understand the logic of taking it out of the LDA and then promising that it will go when you can put it in there and then it'll definitely go. So that right there does not make any sense to me if it's going to go to South Norwalk. South Norwalk needs a lot. If the mall is ever going to thrive, South Norwalk needs social programs and in the surrounding neighborhoods. So really, I mean, if you go in a radius, I mean, part of it is District A, part of it is in District B. You need different things in order for the mall, for someone to want to come down here. I used to work at the movie theater on Westport Avenue, and individuals would come and say, you know, oh, that movie's not playing here. I say, oh, it's playing in South Norwalk. And they say, oh, okay, well, is it also playing in Fairfield? Because they didn't want to come down here. So if you're not going to invest in, right, remember, if you don't want to invest, if you're not going to invest the money in South Norwalk, then you are dooming the mall project anyway. So I would like to propose an amendment to put it back into number 10. I believe the language, I was trying to pull up the red line version. I don't know if our attorney has the language. I would like to put it back in there, and I will be willing to even to put a portion of, but it's our document. So I think it's not them telling us where it should go. I think, you know.
So would you read your amendment?
If I may, just one issue with regard to the manner in which the $3.5 million will be spent was something we addressed with our finance director, who's not here this evening, so I think he's away this week. But there's a process whereby which the city has to follow in order to decide where money gets spent, and that process involves the Board of Finance or Board of Estimate and Taxation. So that's one reason why we didn't specify in the document the manner in which the $3.5 million would be spent, because it's beyond the authority of the Common Council. So there's basically the $3.5 million will be put into the general fund, and then a request could be made, either facilitated by the council or the mayor's office, to make a request as to where the money should be spent. And that request would go through the BET, and I think ultimately actually back through the Common Council. But the reason why we couldn't specify where the money went in the agreement was because there's a process that we have to follow, which includes the BET, and the council doesn't have the authority to unilaterally make that decision as part of this process. But it was actually originally, I believe, in the desire of council leadership in discussing this, and I know the mayor as well, to try to specify where the money would go, in particular discussions about South Norwalk, but again, in checking it with our finance director and reviewing our requirements of our charter, et cetera, we determined that we couldn't just agree to put it in. We couldn't agree at this point where the money would have to go, but rather have to go through our BET process.
So you're saying the language in here would be illegal?
Yeah, it wouldn't be permitted under our charter or our ordinances.
Okay, so let me just take a look here and see what else might be able to do. I would like to add some language today. So if it's not exactly in the LDA, can we add it to the
Can
actual?
I make a suggestion? I think to maybe accomplish what you're looking to do, maybe Attorney Bernheim can come up, because he's been involved directly with the drafting of the document and reviewing and revising it. So as a courtesy to him, I just want to have him also comment as well. But I believe maybe the issue could be addressed in a whereas clause that the council desires that at some point, maybe we could play around with the language with something to the extent of the council desires that a substantial portion of the monies that are given to the city, of the $3.5 million given to the city, be used in South Norwalk. We could put some,
Right,
to the benefit of South Norwalk, we could put some language like that in a whereas clause.
The language that Ms. Bowen was referring to was essentially which, after you referenced the 3.5 million, which will be used for improvements to neighborhoods surrounding the project. So maybe it could be a whereas clause that says the,
But it needs to also be a little bit more broad. So, for example, if there is funds giving, I mean, there's all sorts of, as you look into where the funding could go, things that would benefit not just South Norwalk, but certainly have a substantial benefit for South Norwalk. So I think it's, as long as it's worded broadly and it's in a whereas clause, it's something we probably could be able to accomplish.
for the, maybe it's the city's desire that the,
I think we used to specify the common council, that the and not the city broadly, but rather the common council.
Hey, Mario, is it possible that we can request that the money, the large portion of the 3.5 be put in escrow with regards to be appropriated or used by a new cap agency, once a new cap agency is implemented into Norwalk, is served there, the community, that money will be used for those purposes.
No, it's gotta go into the general fund. I think that in order to accomplish what has been suggested, maybe we, again, in a whereas clause, some language that the council desires.
how about this? Whereas the common council desires that the $3.5 million exaction funds will be allocated to programs in support of South Norwalk.
I think it's-
I don't think that's what we discussed.
Well-
I think originally I heard the word betterment of the surrounding neighborhoods.
Was,
Which
is
a
what
much
was in.
broader term.
All right, let's, one at a time. Let's, Mr. Corsello.
I think I said right.
I think the original language did say surrounding neighborhoods. If we can say South Norwalk, I would like to, betterment, I mean, surrounding neighborhoods. But I would be opposed to surrounding neighborhoods and South Norwalk, including South Norwalk. Or especially South Norwalk.
Mr. Livingston.
Yeah, I think we also just discussed substantially all, if that was okay with you?
Substantially.
Substantially all the funds.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Were you saying we have to?
Mr. Igneri.
I'm sorry. I thought the language has to be broader and not just.
Yeah, it has to be more broad instead of directed.
Broad, so you can't direct it. A dollar amount.
Yeah, let me just draft something really quickly.
I also think it's appropriate that once the money goes into the general fund, that we have discussions with the representatives from South Norwalk and from some constituent groups to determine some programs that we may wish to implement. And certainly that money would be earmarked or could be earmarked once we have those discussions and bring it to the BET and to the council. That money's not going to go anyplace right now. It's going to be there. Mr. Corsello.
Yeah, I think there's consensus among everybody on the council that the monies, the 3.5 million, should go to the neighborhoods where the residents were displaced for the for the acquisition of the land for this project. But to start parsing language on the fly tonight at a meeting in this environment, I don't think it's a good idea. I've said it before with regard to other issues, and language of this contract has been negotiated over a lengthy period of time. I'm opposed to, for lack of a better word, tweaking it now here in this manner. That's just how I feel. I think it's a bad practice.
For whatever it's worth too, just as a suggestion to follow what was just said, you could also do this by way of like a letter of the council or a future resolution that the desire of the council is that when this issue gets considered with the BET, et cetera, that a substantial portion of the $3.5 million funds be used to benefit the South Norwalk community and the community at large. So there's more than one way to accomplish it. Essentially, a whereas clause isn't binding anyways. It's a whereas clause within the agreement. So rather than do it on the fly, as been suggested, it may be better for us to think about the language, work with some of the council members that are most concerned about it, and put the language again either in a council resolution, maybe one of the next meetings, or a letter from the council. That probably makes a little bit more sense, just to give us time to tweak it and get it done correctly.
Mr. De Palma.
That was actually going to be my suggestion, was to say, can we make it as a resolution, as a set, so that we have some time to talk about it. 'Cause like I said, I think we're all behind the same thing, but does it have any more weight either way, whether it's a resolution or a whereas, or essentially it's just a recommendation to BET anyway, right?
Yeah, I don't think it does either way, so I think in order to get it done correctly, I agree. I think it sounds like everybody's in favor of trying to accomplish it, but that, rather than do it on the fly this evening, that we prepare something for you to review and try to get done in a future council meeting.
Ms. Bowman.
Well, I won't support it. I won't support this without it. Which means I won't be voting for it today. Well, first, number one, my amendment's still on the floor, so I would like to go ahead and vote for it. And then, so that's the first thing. If it doesn't pass, I won't be supporting this. The language just was removed May 15th, so we're asking for it to be put back today, which we didn't have much time to discuss the removal. So the red line I got on May 15th, which was last Monday, was the first time I saw that removed. So in terms of timing, I think even just doing it today is fine. Quite frankly, it was in there up until a week ago. So
Okay, so do you want to read your amendment?
yeah, and then in addition, can you what do you have as the whereas clause? Yeah.
What you just read.
Yeah.
That's changed since I read it. Here's what I have written down now.
I wrote that. Okay.
Whereas the Common Council desires a substantial amount of the $3.5 million exaction funds be allocated to programs in support of neighborhoods surrounding the project.
And
I think it should stipulate that it should be used, they're saying it can't be directly for South Norwalk only, if I'm correct. Is that what you stated? No. But I would say that, the $3.5 million should be used to, for the sole purpose of redeveloping of the urban community with social service programs, et cetera.
okay, so at the end of surrounding neighborhoods.
Could we add something like that? I think that's a little more broader than saying South Norwalk, but you say the urban core?
I think it's, the additional language is probably a little bit more narrow. But why don't you put up the...
Well, how can we get there? Because other than that, it looks like just a $3.5 million is just going to become a slush fund. And that's what I'm a little concerned about.
It can't be a slush fund. It's got to go into the general...
And just so you have an understanding of the timing, the $3.5 million isn't paid until the final land use approvals. So that means they have to get the approval tonight, the approval through the redevelopment agency tomorrow night is the public hearing, and then the vote for the redevelopment agency is the 31st. And then the zoning commission takes it up on June 8th. And then there's an appeal period that follows that. So you're looking into, the middle of July probably before, at the earliest, that the city's going to see this money. So there is some time for you guys to consider this at other meetings, if that gives you any comfort.
And furthermore, it gets deposited in the general fund, and then there's a process to take the money out after that.
At the end, can we add urban core, and then just read it to me one more time? And that's the amendment we'll go with, we'll vote on it. I'll just read it one more time.
Whereas the Common Council desires that a substantial amount of the $3.5 million exaction funds will be allocated to programs in support of neighborhoods surrounding the project and the urban core.
You read that one more time.
Whereas the Common Council desires that a substantial amount of the $3.5 million exaction funds will be allocated to programs in support of neighborhoods surrounding the project and the urban core.
And that will be included at the end of exactions in section 10.
No, that would be included probably at the end of the whereas provisions on page 2, just above now therefore. So it would be the last whereas. Or,
Okay, so it'll be after the last whereas. Okay, Mr. Kites?
During this process, where these funds would be used has been a topic of conversation throughout this process. And I do believe everyone that I've spoken to, both on the council and others involved in this, agree that it should go back to the community in which the mall sits. But I have to agree with Mr. Corsello that doing this on the fly, just for instance, I believe I've been approached by a dozen people that want a piece of this money. And I don't deny them their right to it, but I do believe there should be a process in place, a group that's put together. And at that point, I personally would feel more comfortable with, say, a resolution, because the language, as our Corporation Council has said, binds us to nothing. And I do feel a more well-constructed resolution at a further date after we bring in folks from South Norwalk and come to some sort of agreement amongst themselves on what they want to do with this money. I'd feel more appropriate supporting this at that time versus, to Mr. Corsello's point, on the fly right now.
Mr. Livingston?
Yeah, I first off, I want to be clear that I definitely support the use of the money in the area, but I have to agree with Mr. Kites and Mr. Corsello that I don't want to do it on the fly, particularly given the language I just heard as evidence. What does it mean to be a program? Does that mean you can't build a building? I think there's too much risk of ambiguity and uncertainty in this type of approach, so I will be voting against it.
Mr. Igneri?
I too will vote against it, but I do favor the money being spent in the community around the mall, and I think a resolution that we all draft before the next session would be a nice way of doing that.
Ms. Bowman?
We're concerned about time now, yet we flew through this entire process. Okay, so let me just pause and let me just say that right there. We flew through this entire process, and now we're all concerned. I got time right now, so if we need to flesh out some wording, I have time right now. If you don't like a word, but I want something in here. If it's not in here, if it's it's binding, but you don't want to put it down on paper. I mean, well, it's binding or not binding, but you want to do it, but you don't want to put it down on paper. All we ask you to do right now is put it down on paper. If it's down on paper, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You know? So in terms of putting a resolution, this does not even forego even putting a resolution together, because saying this right now does not say that you can't put a resolution together. So, I mean, if you want to be difficult, you want to be difficult. If you got people pegged that you're going to give this money to, like the South Norwalk Community Center for the roof, that they didn't spend their CDBG money. We gave them CDBG money for this roof, and I heard that they're getting some of this money to build a roof that they didn't fix with the CDBG money we appropriated for them. So, I mean, if that's the reason we're not putting anything down on paper right now, then let's just go ahead and say it. But I don't see anything wrong with what I have right now, what I just said.
Mr. Kimmel?
Mr. Bernheim, I have a question. Could you repeat the original language that was removed? It said surrounding communities.
It says, which will be used for improvements to neighborhoods surrounding the project.
So we removed that language because of a technical point that has to do with our ordinances and charter. There was no substantive disagreement which caused us to remove it. We were all okay with the money being used in that area. So why change? All we need to do is qualify it. and make it, whereas it is the desire of the Common Council too, and go back to the language which was initially agreed to. Because that's where we were before, that's what all the sides agreed to. We realized that there was a problem related to the charter. The way to get around that problem is to just say, whereas it is the desire of the Common Council, and then leave it exactly the way it is, nothing else. I would vote for a whereas it is the desire of the Common Council too, and then go back to the original language. That I think I could support. That language has been vetted. That language was all okay and removed on the basis of a technical point related to our charter. Okay, so I think we're on safe ground there. Any effort to make it more specific or anything else, that would be doing it on the fly. And I agree we can't do it. But I am comfortable by reinserting the original language, but indicating that it is only the desire of the Common Council. That way, we do not usurp any of the powers of the Board of Estimate and Taxation. The money goes into the general fund. We go through our normal processes. So if that is okay, I would like to just...
I'll withdraw mine.
Okay, so I will make an amendment that we keep the original language, however, we preface it with, whereas... This is it right here? Okay. Whereas it is desire, where am I here?
This desire of the Common Council that the funds shall be used.
Whereas it is the desire of the Common Council that the funds be used for improvements in the neighborhoods surrounding the project. Improvements to neighborhoods surrounding the project, to neighborhoods surrounding the project. So we have our original legally vetted language with the qualification that we are aware of our city charter and our processes, but it is our desire that it be used.
Okay, is there further discussion on the amendment?
I think that should just be clear, the fund should be clarified. I think you just referenced funds. I think it should be specifically the 3.5 million.
3.5,
Yeah,
yes.
I wrote it out if you'd like me to
Thank you.
read it.
Please repeat it.
Please read it.
Whereas the Common Council desires that the $3.5 million exaction funds will be used for improvements to neighborhoods surrounding the project.
Thank you. That's the original language.
Okay. Mr. De Palma.
I can't imagine it would be the case, but would making this change, a whereas clause, affect going back, or having us have to go back and saying that maybe GGP doesn't agree? I can't imagine it's the case, but we don't think making a change like this.
That's an important question. I think the answer is no, but I'm looking in the audience.
That's what I'm looking.
And I'm just making sure that I get a positive head shake.
They don't have a say.
Thank you. I was going to ask the question. I was going to ask a question.
All right,
before
okay,
you
okay.
left. That's good.
All right, yeah. Any further discussion
About the amendment, correct?
on the amendment?
I could support that amendment.
Okay, so, now, Mr. Kimmel, Ms. Bowman, you withdrew your amendment. Mr. Kimmel's amendment is now on the floor. We must vote on the amendment first. So all in favor of the amendment? All opposed? Abstentions? Mr. Bonifant opposes the amendment. Now,
Can I have a roll call vote, Mr.?
now we would vote on the item.
I have
I have comments on the item.
Ms. O'Toole, you're
waiting for the amendment to go through.
Sorry, Steve, I got it.
It's okay, it doesn't matter, ladies first.
I came here tonight ready to vote yes. I changed my mind. I was ready to vote no. Based on these comments that the clerical changes that were put in front of us, because last time it was just a clerical change. It was the change in definition of an anchor of high quality, which I think was a much larger issue that we vetted very well at the public hearings and the planning committee meetings. And John, thank you for putting all of those on. That all said, after 3.5 years, to the staff of GGP, please don't let us down. We've been here. We thought we were done. It was a long, painful process. I literally gave birth along the process. I want to see the mall succeed. I want to see Norwalk succeed. Let this please be the last hurdle, and let's run with it. We all see that there's machinery there on the site now. Hopefully that just continues and we go right into construction, and we're all standing there in 2019. I truly hope that that's where we end up, because I know for myself and others here, it's been a difficult process, because we want the right thing for the city, but this has been a painful process. So hopefully we'll see you in 19 and we'll be cutting some ribbons.
Any further discussion on the item? Mr. Sarasis.
I agree with a lot that has been said, especially Shannon that just said we're here for the people of Norwalk. We are. I think that we're intelligent people up here. However, the reality is we're a dedicated part-time city representatives. And we are negotiating with a multi-billion-dollar company with an impressive lobbying and legal team. I do have a problem with the $3.5 million not being a balanced deal. A balanced deal is $10.5 million, because nobody's mentioning the $21 million concession or benefit that GGP is getting out of this. We're all stuck on the bobble, which is $3.5 million that's being given to us. If the hotel was constructed and finished, I'm not saying it can, and I know it's not feasible, that would be a pie that would be shared with everyone in the city. So if we're getting $3.5 million of the concession of $21 million, then we're only getting 1/6 of the pie now instead of the whole pie. And GGP is getting more than 2/3 of the pie, 5/6. I just don't feel that's fair, and I understand that they have shareholders, but none of us, and I can only speak for myself, are beholden to any shareholders. And while we sit up here, we are beholden to the people of Norwalk. And I think that we could do a lot more with a little bit more of that pie. And I don't think asking for even 1/3 of it, $7 million, is too much to ask for. And we could use that to benefit the city and benefit the people of Norwalk. I know that the votes are here to pass them all, so I'm not going to attempt to make a motion to delay approval until the city hires an independent expert to review GGP's financials to affirm whether the claim that they can pay this amount or not is true. So I therefore will have to vote no under those terms, unless, of course, as soon as I finish, GGP gets to the microphone and says we're getting $7 million. And that's just how I feel, and I think I feel as though I just want to be fair to the people of Norwalk and make sure we get our fair shake of the pie. Instead of 1/6, we deserve at least 1/3 of that pie. Thank you.
Further discussion? I think Mr. Kites called for a roll call vote. Yes, sir. So, Ms. King?
Mr. Bonifant?
No.
Mr. Porcello?
Yes.
Mr. Kimmel?
Yes.
Mr. Sacchinelli?
Yes.
Ms. Melendez? Yeah. Mr. Sarasis?
No.
Ms. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
No.
Mr. Kites?
Yes.
Mr. DePalma?
Yes.
Ms. O'Toole-Durko?
Yes.
Mr. Igneri?
Yes.
Mr. Livingston?
Yes.
Vote was 11-3 in favor. Thank you. Mr. Kites, item 7D2.
No, no,
No,
it
it's
can't
not.
be 11, it has to be 10.
10.
Sorry?
It's 10.
Oh,
I
okay.
forgot Hempstead is out.
10-3. Mr. Kites, 7D2.
I'd like to read and move the item, Mr. Mayor, and authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 5 to the land use disposition and development agreement in the form approved by the common council and the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency after approval of the modifications to the urban renewal plan for the Reed Putnam area, and amendment number 5 to the land disposition and development agreement of the Reed Putnam area development parcels 1, 2, and 4 by the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency. I believe all has been said, and I'd like to move that item.
Mr. Kites moves the item. Any discussion? Mr. Kimmel?
Just one point. This was really tough for the planning committee, and I just want to commend Mr. Kites and the members of the planning committee. They met often, the discussions were detailed, and they got it here on time. It's tough to be under a gun, but we weren't calling all the shots. They according to the timelines. It was Bloomingdale's and Nordstroms and other courses, so They did an excellent job, and I just think they should be commended.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Ms. Bowman?
I just wanted to also say, we don't expect to see, just before we finish, we don't expect to see you guys back, and we want to see them all. And I know NCC, they've got their program up and running, so just want to say that.
Any further discussion?
You know, we've gotten to know these folks pretty well. I'm kind of sad.
He'll be here.
Probably not getting a Christmas card.
Seeing no further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? So it's 10-3, with Mr. Bonifant, Mr. Sarasas, and Mr. Sims voting no. Motion carries. Thank you. Ms. Melendez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under the Ordinance Committee, approve proposed ordinance changes on Norwalk Code Chapter 67A, subsection 67A-1A, 67A-1B, 67A-2, 67A-3, 67A-4, and 67A-5. I'm going to move that.
You move it?
Yeah.
Discussion? Mr. Livingston.
I'll just comment on this. I mean, this bounced around for a number of months at the ordinance committee, and basically what this does is it does a couple things. One, we originally approached this ordinance in order to add another group. This is the ordinance that indemnifies people serving on elected boards, committees, and councils of the city. Standard provision, we just originally approached this to add another group, and rather than do that, what we did is make this broader in terms of covering boards, committees, council, agency more generically, but also more importantly, to make this track the state law. So it's really, I wouldn't say it's a substantive change as much as cleaning it up. I strongly support it.
Further discussion? Ms. Bowman?
So the language, how did it read before? Because it doesn't, what is exactly the?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Very briefly, it was messy. It included all of our boards and commissions by name, and that's why we were approached by Oak Hills, because they were missing, even though they are technically covered under it, because everyone is. So we took the opportunity to just clean it up and make it, as Mr. Livingston said, basically in compliance or like the state one, the state statute.
And so this does, so this basically says the city basically will have to represent anyone on a board or commission or a council.
Which was our understanding of the state law anyway, just that our city code didn't reflect that.
Okay.
And just to be clear, when you say represent, we're indemnifying them, not representing them per se.
What is it?
Well, I mean, if they go to court, we're gonna indemnify them. Something, if they get, for example, they get sued or something by reason of performing their duties on the council, on a committee, and there are some exceptions, and we'll go into those, but if they're sued just simply for following their duties, we are going to defend them in court.
Okay.
Not only defend them, but if they're unsuccessful.
Mr. Corsello?
We will reimburse them, I'm sorry.
Come on. We want to do this.
That's okay. Further discussion?
And I think.
Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Was that, is that a, okay, it carries unanimously.
And make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Igneri makes a motion to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your service. So you're a lawyer, you're used to that.